In today's latest news, we discuss Moises Caicedo and what the hell is going on around his future. The player is adamant he is leaving Brighton, and Brighton are adamant the player is remaining. What is happening with this story? To move on, we discuss Jose Mourinho and a possible three-peat, and of course we have some news around Casadei and a loan move to Reading. So we have a ton of things to break down and discuss before this window ends. I feel like something is brewing and being cooked up behind the scenes in the background. I feel like we have one more big move on us before this window ends, and we only have a few more days left now, so time is definitely against us. But I have full faith in Todd Bowley, Mr. Egbali, and the entire team right now. So if you guys are excited by how this window has been progressing, hit that like button. Let's get 2k likes, and of course, share your thoughts and opinions in the comment section too. Before we go on though, I have one big announcement to make first. Today's video is brought to you by Football Team Game. Now, I've discussed Football Team Game in previous videos. I want to say thank you to everyone that signed up to my club in Blue Lions FC. We have our first game later today against Newcastle United at 4, so let's see what happens. But if I'm being honest with you guys, I don't have much hope for this game, and that's because of the team we have currently. So I am stacked with midfield players and attacking players, but I don't have any defence. So I'm calling out people that still want to become part of my squad. I need a Thiago Silva, I need a John Terry, and I need an Ashley Cole to complete the squad. And hopefully you can rise up the ranks and try and do something right now. But anyway, I'm really excited to see how this performance is going to be. As you guys can see with my tactical setup, I'm going for some positional play courtesy of Mr. Thomas Tuchel. So let's see how that plays out. But anyway, if you guys are interested to sign up, it's absolutely free to play. And with Football Team Game, it allows you to create your very own football avatar, create your own position, improve them as well too, boost the stats, and hopefully get signed up by a club so you can improve your player even more. So what are you guys waiting for? Download Football Team Game, and I'll have the updates based on the results in our first game in the future videos. So right now, let's get back to the video. So right now, let's start things off and let's discuss Casadei and this long move to Reading. In my opinion, I think this is the right move to make. Casadei is now 20 years old, and we have to remember that he was kept here after we signed him to be introduced to the country, to settle in, to feel more confident with his language skills, and just have the club put his arm around him as he's integrating into a new culture, city, and club as well too. I think that with the talent this guy has and the potential, we've all seen the clips about how he's been performing for the youth teams as well too. The powerful strides, like the confident passing, the long shots, the power. I really feel like Reading would be a good move because we do have a bit of a history with them in regards to loaning them players and them having, decent loan spells with Reading. So there's definitely some trust behind this loan move, and I think it's all up to Casadei now to push on. It must be quite difficult for the young midfield players at this club because there's like an overabundance of young mids and young talent right now. But I do think this is the necessary move now for Casadei to really start to, fight for his place in the squads during pre-season and for next season. And maybe this is too ambitious, but I do feel like if you're signing for us, you need to be one of those special kids that has that inner belief and confidence in themselves that they can challenge, they can win places, and they can fight for their future here, because that is the bare minimum you need to show if you want to be a Chelsea player, in my opinion. So Casadei's future is sorted very soon. You'd imagine that Hutchinson will get a loan move very soon as well too. Now, some of these young talents are finally getting loan moves, and I just think that, game time is the most important thing. It doesn't matter what you're doing in the training sessions, actually playing, getting that confidence, getting used to, playing in front of an expected crowd. These types of intangibles that we don't necessarily care about as fans, these are the things that can affect the confidence mentality of a player on the field. So get that game time for these guys right now. And I'm not going to lie, I kind of feel like this is kind of setting up for maybe Andre Santos, compete alongside Cons in regards to the young mids, fighting for their places in the team. Now, I feel very confident personally that with the exploits we're seeing from Santos playing for the Brazilian under-20s, 3 goals and 3 appearances, he's a leader, he's vocal, he's a guy who's playing in the base of the midfield 3, and he's showing a lot of those DM qualities that I was talking about before in previous videos. This is a guy that can play all across the midfield, in a pivot, in a 2, in a 3, can play box to box, but most importantly, can receive from the centre-backs and give your defence that assurance in front of them that they need. And I just feel like we will get away with this work permit thing because his exploits for Brazil is literal proof that he is like a super talent And if you're a super talent, and you have to prove why a player is of particular significance and talent if you have any hopes of them securing their work permits here. So I think that we should have another addition to our midfields, obviously once this month is over. So that is the stories out the way first. Let's now move on to discussing Jose Mourinho, because I want to end things talking about Caicedo, because there's so much to discuss around the story right now. Now, yesterday, Mourinho came out with some very lovely praise about his time as our manager and saying how he always has a soft spot for us in his heart. And I mean, I'm expecting that to be the case. He's been our manager twice now. It's been like an absolute roller coaster each time he's been our manager. And I guess the talk has been about Mourinho trying to propose himself to the new boards to take over as our manager. Now, in regards to this story, this isn't a recent development right now, but Mourinho is actively trying to leave Roma to force a move back. But we got some confirmation about what was happening during the start of Graham Potter's time here, because of course, naturally, we looked at other managers as well too, and you know Mourinho, he's probably thinking, wow, like this is a board that is really supporting a manager here. With my expertise, you know, my legendary status, plus a board that will listen and back and keep their mouths shut, this is where I need to be. So, like, come on, we're all Chelsea fans. We all have a soft spot for Mourinho. It's always going to be like that, regardless of the fact that every single one of us has also been critical. Like, we can't forget that. I remember during his second spell here, I was one of the few people at the time that was like, you know, I love the guy, but I do think it's time for him to go now, because I just feel like the football I'm seeing is not really getting the best out of the players. And I feel like we've regressed dramatically right now. And I guess in the end, things were proven right. But regardless though, Mourinho is one of the most respected figures in football, an absolute legend. And I guess through pure charisma and of course managerial ability, I don't think I want to see Mourinho here right now. Definitely not with young players. Like personally, I was a little bit scarred during the times when he had guys like De Bruyne and Salah and all these young talents that he was not getting the best out of. And I kind of felt like because he was stuck to this rigid way of thinking, he was not flexible to want to entertain these guys in the squads, and we paid the price in the end. I feel like I don't want to see the same repeat again, especially now that we have only young players in the team. And I just think maybe Mourinho's ideas and demands for young players aren't as realistic compared to telling a senior player to do the same thing. You know, a senior player has kind of mastered his game already, and as he's getting older, he just wants to win at any cost. That is the most important thing. But for a younger player, they haven't mastered their game. They're trying to. They want to improve every time. And if you play like certain football games using certain tactics, you play to win, but then you're not winning anything else on top of that, if you know what I mean. But, you know, at the same time, I can't stand here and act like maybe in the future, I would not want to see Mourinho have one more go managing us, purely because of the sentimentality, like the love, the respect, the times under him as well too. Like, can you imagine Mourinho back again as our manager? That would be an absolute madness. But I feel like a legend for him, where, listen, he really put us on the map, and his first spell here as a manager is one of the best ever managerial times I've seen in my entire life. Mourinho really was that good, and this is why he has legendary status in the game right now. It would be like an incredible way for him to potentially end his time as a manager if he took over us one more time. Of course, he has his yards right near the stadium, but I think with how things are going currently, we back Graham Potter, let him build the foundations, let us take us where he has to, and then who knows what happens in the future. So right now, how do you feel about this story? And would you want to see Mourinho return back to the club in some type of capacity one day in the future? Let us know below. So right now, let's end things by discussing what the hell is going on around Moises Caicedo. Now, this has been an ever developing story over the past 12 hours, and recently Caicedo announced his intentions to leave Brighton, and you'd imagine that it comes courtesy of direction from the new agency that he signed up with them. Of course, from the agency's regards, they're thinking this is a brilliant way to kickstart our agency. It's a great way to earn tons of money for all of us and to keep the business going. And you'd imagine that whilst interest for the player is at an absolute peak right now, this is the moment of opportunity that everyone makes money from. So I completely understand what they're doing. But anyway, Caicedo released a very, very surprising statement publicly late last night. Here's what he had to say. I am grateful to Mr. Bloom and Brighton for giving me the chance to come to the Premier League, and I feel I have always done my best for them. I always play football with a smile and with my heart. I am the youngest of 10 siblings from a poor upbringing in Santo Domingo in Ecuador. My dream always to be the most decorated player in the history of Ecuador. I am proud to be able to bring in a record transfer fee for Brighton, which would allow them to reinvest it and help the club continue to be successful. The fans have taken me into their hearts, and they will always be in my heart, so I hope they can understand why I want to take up this magnificent opportunity. So, like, when he actually deep the audacity of this statement, there's been no agreement right now with any club. I think at the time you assumed that a secret agreement was in place with someone, but Brighton have come out categorically denying any move is happening right now, and the only thing that has changed is that Casadei originally was off the market, but now if someone wants him, they must cough up around £90 million, which is a ridiculous amount of money to spend. And even though Casadei is one of the most talented up-and-coming youngsters in the Premier League, for that type of money, I think that's an absolute no. Now, I see this situation in two ways, yeah? Let's see it from Casadei's perspective. You could be cynical, but I think the reality is, did Casadei even know what a Brighton was when he was trying to make his name for himself and climb up the ranks back in Ecuador? Absolutely not. Of course, his dream, as he said, is to be the greatest Ecuadorian player in history, and to do that, he must play for one of the best clubs in the world, and that's one of the reasons why he came to the Premier League, because Brighton gave him an opportunity to ease himself into the Premier League, to announce himself and make a name for himself. He could be thinking to myself, listen, you're getting a ton of money for me, way bigger than what I originally cost for you guys to sign me. You know what the deal is? You guys are a selling club. Don't deny me this opportunity, because this is a reality of the game. We can cast our minds back to the end of the summer period where we thought we were nearly about to sign Alvarez from Ajax. We even told Alvarez, don't worry, we're coming back for you in January, which was an absolute lie because we haven't heard anything about the player ever since. And this is how the game works. Someone can replace you if you don't take advantage of these opportunities. So from Casadei's perspective, I understand completely why this is the best time for Caicedo to leave Brighton. If he signs for Arsenal, he could potentially win the Premier League this season and go down in Ecuadorian history. And at the same time, if he signs for us, he's joining one of the most exciting projects in world football. But on the other hand, from Brighton's perspective, you know, these clubs that try to, you know, they do everything by the books, they try to grow, improve, and become the best they can. All their hard work gets constantly undermined because big clubs like us can snap up their best players just like that and completely derail the projects they're working on. Brighton are having one of the best seasons in their history, and there's a real opportunity for these guys to get European football at the end of the season. If Casadei leaves them right now, it completely undermines their season. It weakens them tactically because what this guy has been doing in midfield alongside McAllister is one of the reasons why Brighton can compete so much in the league currently. And is that amount of money worth it? And if you take the money now, is it worth potentially missing out on all these grand objectives that aren't impossible once the season ends? Because you may be hurting how our season progresses, and I guess they need to get fair compensation for whatever happens during the end of the season. Regardless, so even though Caicedo is a super talent, and I really feel like he will be one of the leading midfield players in the Premier League, at the same time, we're in a great opportunity where there seems to be many opportunities now in the midfield market. And I do kind of feel like if you're even entertaining thinking about making bids over 70 mil or 80 mil, you may as well go all the way in for your main target, which is Enzo Fernandez. I mean, when you actually deep that, if you pay 10 million extra compared to the 90 million that Brighton went for Caicedo, you're thereabouts being able to sign Enzo for that same fee. And I feel like in terms of Enzo's game, I always stress his ability to affect the entire game in all phases. That is the most important thing. And this is why he can take this team to the next level. Casadei will be that great complementary figure alongside him, similar to like what guys like De Paul and McAllister were doing for Enzo with the Argentinian team. You know, great energy, you know, between the lines as well too, to help offer some defensive support. But I just kind of feel like for the valuation right now, it makes no sense. And when you're hearing reports too that Arsenal potentially may be dramatically outbidding us in terms of wages they're offering, reports saying that we were looking to offer around 40,000 a week, which is fair and is a lot more than what he's currently earning at Brighton. But then there's talks that Arsenal could give Caicedo over 200,000 a week. And when you consider the humble beginnings he came from, this is like a lottery ticket that may never come again. This is transforming lives of so many people literally overnight. And I feel like when you have this type of price around you, especially the signing on fees and everything, I understand completely why a player can't say no to that, especially someone like Moises Caicedo. If I was to give my opinion, I don't feel like we're going to win this race to sign him. I do think like Arsenal are desperate to sign Caicedo. A part of me is thinking it must have something to do alongside Thomas Partey, because the allegations around this guy are incredibly shameful. I don't know what he's doing in his actual life, but you can't have a person like this at your football club and you have to replace him. And I kind of feel like maybe this is why Arsenal are really looking to get Caicedo right now, because this is their best chance of winning the Premier League since the 03-04 season. And I still think they are taking advantage of the fact that we have our main attention and focus on Enzo Fernandez. And that's why they're putting pressure on Caicedo to try and force this move out from Brighton. So in my opinion, I'm expecting Caicedo to release a transfer request before the window ends. He won't be taking part in their next game. And normally when stuff like that happens, it's normally a recipe for disaster for these selling parties. So you guys, that is all the latest news around the stories today. I hope you guys enjoy. I'm Nini FC, this is Blue Line TV. Catch you guys later with some more videos. Cool.